My name is Bob Baker. I'm the Executive Director of the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation. And I'm here today to voice our opposition to Senate Bill 113. We feel that it repeals many of the major humane standards of care that were in Proposition B that we feel are essential for the health and welfare of the dogs. Number one, it takes out the physical examination by a veterinarian for these dogs at least once a year. It also removes veterinary treatment for dogs that are sick or ill or injured by a veterinarian. It also removes the requirement to increase the cage spaces. As Senator Parson himself said here today, these dogs are pinned up for life in these facilities, and we feel that they need more than 6 inches of space to live for their entire lives, and that's what Senate Bill 113 will do. We'll revert back to our current standards, which will only allow these dogs 6 inches of space, and we think that's inhumane. Senate Bill 113 also takes away the prohibition on wire flooring. Again, these dogs are pinned up for their entire life living on wire flooring. We think it's very uncomfortable for the dogs, and it even causes injuries to the dog's legs and feet from living on this wire flooring for their entire lives. And I might just address something real quick on the cage space. You know, we're hearing all the time that Prob B would put breeders out of business. But a lot of this is just the fact that I don't even understand what the cage requirements were in Prob B. We continually hear that if you have 50 dogs and they each have 5 puppies apiece, that you're going to need 11,000 square feet of floor space. And that would scare any breeder if they thought that that's how much space it was required. But in fact, Prob B only requires this space for the adult dogs. So those 50 dogs with all those puppies that we keep hearing over and over again, they're going to need 11,000 square feet. They only, in reality, would only need 1,000 square feet. That's not a lot of space when you consider 50 adult dogs plus 250 puppies. So I do think that the cage requirement is reasonable and it would not put anyone out of business. And in reference to exercise, again, that was stripped out of Prob B. Senate Bill 113 deletes that. The dogs will not have access to an outdoor exercise run. They talk about a plan for exercise. That's nothing new. That's been USDA has been wanting plans for exercise for years under current law. And so putting this plan in by a veterinarian for exercise is nothing new. But the problem with that is that there's no way that you can enforce it. You go out there, all the dogs are in cages. How do you know if those dogs were ever removed from those cages for exercise? There's strictly no way of enforcement. That is why Prob B proposed having these dogs have an access to an outdoor exercise run. Something that any good kennel would have. I've never been into a good kennel that wouldn't have these dogs having access to an outdoor run. And this is just common sense. Again, Senate Bill 113 takes out the revision on temperature. And again, this was a scare tactic. We heard time and time again that Prob B would put good breeders out of business because their puppies would die and freeze to death under Prob B requirements. All Prob B did in reference to temperature was take out a loophole in the law. Under the current law, indoor facilities and sheltered housing facilities have temperature requirements that cannot exceed 45 degrees or 85 degrees. That's in current law. Prob B didn't change that. What Prob B did was, the current law says it can't exceed those temperature requirements for 4 consecutive hours. So an inspector goes out there on a hot day, it'll be 100 degrees inside the barn where all these dogs are stacked up. They cannot cite the breeder because they would have to sit there for 4 hours to prove that it exceeded that requirement. All we did in Prob B is we didn't put in those temperature requirements. Again, they're in current law. All we said is that they did not have to exceed those requirements for 4 consecutive hours. All we were trying to do is make the current law enforceable. And we're hearing this time again that Senate Bill 113's purpose is to put teeth into the law. And that's what Prob B did in reference to temperature, and it's what it did in reference to water. We have the same problem with Senate Bill 113 changed the current requirement for water, whereby now an inspector goes out there, it can be a hot summer day, the dogs are panting, they're breathing laboriously because and their water bowls are empty, and the inspector can do nothing. Prob B made it so that the water would have to be available on a continuing basis. We have the same problem in the winter. The water bowls are frozen. The dogs have no access to water, and the inspectors cannot do anything. Prob B is the one that actually put teeth into the law so they could be, enforced a requirement for water. Senate Bill 113 takes away any restrictions on how often dogs can be bred. Without belaboring the point, we think it's inhumane that these dogs are bred on their first heat. Many of these dogs are bred at 8 months of age. They're bred incessantly, over and over again, until 5 or 6 years of age, until they're bred out. I'll let the veterinarians that will be testifying here today talk about the conditions of these dogs from this incessant breeding practices. Senate Bill 113 takes out that provision. And the thing that I really want to emphasize was that Senate Bill 113 does not put teeth into the law. It goes through and weakens the law in every respect. And I'm talking about current law. There was a lot of talk here today about this is putting teeth into going after unlicensed breeders. It's already a Class A misdemeanor to operate without a license in the state of Missouri. This isn't putting any teeth against unlicensed breeders. That's the current law. And so they basically restated current law for unlicensed breeders and then went down and put hurdles and obstacles into enforcement by saying that you have to prove that it was done repeatedly over and over again. You strip the Class A misdemeanor down to a Class C misdemeanor for current violations of sanitation and water and food.